Initializing. Please stand by.
One of the most anticipated real-time strategy games soon to be released is Tempest Rising. And an exciting update for you is that there's going to be a new single-player demo that's, well, already started. From the 24th of February to the 10th of March, you'll be able to play on the first two GDF as well as the first two Tempest Dynasty campaign missions. You'll also be able to have a go at the Skirmish vs AI on the maps called Altitude, Overgrown Oasis, and Alps. Tempest Rising is currently sitting as the 47th most wishlisted game on Steam, which is pretty good going for a strategy game, and so it is certainly a game that has a lot of potential in bringing back a lot of players to the real-time strategy game genre. The recent open beta for the online multiplayer version of the game seemed to be very positive, but I'm hoping that the game has a really good single-player campaign, as that is really what most people play. The demo will only feature the first two missions of the two factions though, so it will only be really a sneak peek. The game's official release date is on the 24th of April, but you can actually play the game 7 days earlier than that if you pre-order the deluxe version. I'm actually kind of interested on people's take on pre-ordering games these days. Is it something that you do, or have you been burnt in the past by bad experiences, and well, maybe now you never pre-order anything at all? Let me know in the comment section below. A new game that has been announced is called Wartorn. It's a single-player, squad-based roguelite campaign experience from the lead designer of BioShock, creative director of Borderlands 2, and featuring a fully original musical score. It's a game in which players play as two characters, two sisters in fact, called Yara and Elani. They have been driven from their home and must traverse the war-torn islands of Talor to reach the safety of Bainon, their ancestral fortress. Now, whilst there doesn't appear to be any base building in Wartorn, you'll certainly need to be strategic in choosing your squads to master the elements and the environments against hordes of enemies. Build out your caravan by recruiting squads of fantasy creatures, including goblins, elves, demons, tree folk, and more as you travel through the world. Each squad will add new strategic options for your caravan through their different characteristics and unique abilities. Battlefield positioning, squad combos, and skillful usages of abilities can win the day, but be careful, because losses cost you morale, and if your caravan loses hope, it's game over. When you do win missions, you get to choose from rewards of a choice of up to 3, which can then range from new squads of units, necessary supplies for the journey, including food and coin, as well as resources that improve your company's capabilities. The game is said to have a fresh blend of strategic and roguelite elements that offer deep replayability, with each run feeling fresh thanks to dynamic squad management and unpredictable narrative events that can save your struggling band or cost them their lives. Having played the demo, the game will certainly get your brain juices flowing as you combine both strategy of your elemental powers as well as squad positionings to take advantage of attack bonuses from flanking, for example. The game's release date is yet to be announced, but we do know that it will be coming out on early access first. The best way to get a good idea about the game is to probably just give it a go. It's free to play at the moment as a demo. Now, newly announced Project 37 certainly gives me Command & Conquer vibes, and the developers at Cheese Wheel Industries say it's an easy-to-control, action-packed RTS that uses a unique lane-based movement system to help automate unit movement. The catch is, however, you'll need to constantly fight across multiple fronts at the same time, and it does give an auto-battler with lane vibes. Nevertheless, there is still some base building aspects too, which adds to another layer of strategy, as it appears you'll have to build your structures within very narrow confines of buildable areas, making your choices in structures and their placements very important. You'll need to focus on getting the right units out at the right time, and they'll call for transport to the enemy beach land themselves. Not only this, but you can also customize your army to fit your playstyle by deciding if you want to overwhelm your opponent with hordes of infantry, build unstoppable tanks that can run over enemy vehicles, or sit back and decimate them with airstrikes, all of which you can upgrade. You'll also have some really interesting powers at your disposal, from teleporters, epic plasma cannons, and of course big badaboom nukes over various terrains, be it beachheads or inner cities. Now, whilst some of these features seem quite differing from what we've come to know and love from Command & Conquer style RTS games, well, I think it's a good thing, because ultimately we don't need another carbon copy, and rather, these new mechanics spice things up a bit. I'm quite excited for Project 37, because it has the nostalgia from early Command & Conquer titles, but also looks really quite different enough that it will be interesting to play. I know there's likely to be a lot of Command & Conquer fans watching this video, so let me know what you think of what you've seen so far in the comment section below. Now, moving from one project to another, if you've been enjoying the content on the channel, make sure that you've subscribed to the channel and that you've hit the notification bell, so that you get a bit of a ding-dong when I do upload the next video, which I'm sure you'll be interested in. With that, you'll be able to stay up to date with the latest strategy game news. As always, thanks for the support. Now, discussing a game that many would say has done pretty badly in its early access launch is Stormgate. It had a huge amount of hype around it, with big streamers and content creators alike taking a look at the game, and well, for good reason. It was built up as a spiritual successor to the very popular StarCraft 2 and Warcraft 3, and it was coming at a time when both of the aforementioned titles had essentially been abandoned by its developers. In fact, more recently, it even looks like StarCraft 2 has been finding it difficult in the esports tournament scene. So the question is, well, what's been happening with Stormgate up until now? It seems quite a bit. Recently, they've had a new art director join the development team, with plans to have very big changes to the art style of the factions and also environment. In fact, that has been the focus of a lot of the changes in the 0.3 update. The first thing to talk about is Stormgate's new lighting model, which now creates a much darker and grittier atmosphere to the environments. This has probably been one of the biggest criticisms that a lot of the RTS community have had with the early reveals of Stormgate, and not much, if anything, had changed with regards to this up until now. The terrain textures have been updated, with also a new day-night cycle that really makes the gameplay look a lot more immersive, at least from the footage we've seen so far. This new day-night cycle features both a moving sun and moon that helps bring a much needed detail to the environment, which the developers have also mentioned will feature heavily in their upcoming campaign revamp. Currently, this new day-night cycle is available to check out in the cooperative game mode with the Infest Crater map, as well as in the custom game mode with Titan's Causeway. A custom version of the Isle of Dread map has also had a massive uplift, with a tropical storm effect being added. So what do you think so far? For a lot of people, it's been a long time coming. Visual effects have also had a major lookover, with many of the units and structures in Stormgate, with the main objective to be adding a layer of polish to improve and focus on the battlefield. They've put the extra detail in their explosions, including for both units and structures, added in dynamic light flashes, heat distortion, and projectile trails. They've even made the flayed dragon bigger and more fierce, with new infernal structures also having new building animations. They have new, clearer, more detailed movement pings, and new luminite and therium art. But it's not only the visual effects that have had a spice up though, they've also focused on audio, which is a very welcome update. There was a lot of imbalance of audio mixing levels between units and factions, and it was very jarring during gameplay. So an update here is pretty big for the game overall. They've really focused on the Animancer and Flayed Dragon's audio in particular. Quality of life features, or the lack thereof, was also something that many in the RTS community were very disgruntled with during Stormgate's early access, and now, in Update 3.0, there are fully customizable hotkeys. The feature now enables you to assign hotkeys based on individual commands instead of just on the grid positioning. The automatic control group function is now also customizable, allowing you to choose for yourself what control group each unit automatically gets assigned to whenever they are trained. There is a lot more customization detailed added, but for that I'd just recommend checking out the game if you're interested. They've updated the movement behavior of the flying units now also, such that they move very different from ground units. They can clump together and flock together, rather than pathing around each other to reach a command destination as they used to. But don't worry, they don't stay stacked in one spot for too long as default, as they do indeed automatically spread out after a command. Unit rotations have also been changed so that they look a lot smoother when changing directions, giving them a much more overall smoother look. Projectile movement behavior has also been improved behind the scenes, in particular with the Atlas and the Mortardon now having a more natural projectile arc. The game, now similar to StarCraft 2, also features a countdown start in competitive modes, and there's also now even a pause function in the game, regardless of the game mode, with multiplayer matches allowing up to 3 pauses per player. Area of effect damaging shots now also show friendly fire affected units in green, and the enemy units affected in red, again feeding into better visual clarity for the game as a targeting preview before shots are fired. The post-game screens now also have a completely revamped look with much more detailed stats and graphs to show exactly what happened in the game. They've also added in Twitch stream embeds into the game client, again further boosting the Stormgate ecosystem. With all these updates, they've even put a cherry on the cake for the competitive players in particular, with the upcoming charity tournament being held really soon. Speaking of which, casting tools have had a really big update, with now Fog of War being a toggleable feature for player perspectives. The feature is only available when watching replays at the moment, however, this feature is going to be rolled out for live observers as well in the future. With all this said, probably the biggest announcement is that the developers are now working massively on a full campaign revamp. They've rewritten scripts, re-recorded dialogue, they're adding new units to various factions, and changing the tech trees for future updates. Certainly some massive changes in Stormgate have happened here, but is it too little too late? Or has this update made you want to try out the game again? Let me know in the comments section below. Now, another game being published by Hooded Horse, which is certainly becoming one of my most favourite game publishers, is called Mars Tactics. It's a game that combines turn-based tactical gameplay with large-scale strategic operations across a detailed map of Mars. The dust never truly settles on Mars, and through sandstorms and clear skies alike, the spray from machine guns and shockwaves of frag grenades shake the very core of the planet. Its people. Something that really caught my eye about this game is the environmental destruction and how you can use it to your advantage. For example, a trusty grenade can solve the troubles of poor cover by creating a trench for your troops in the ground. Destroying a segment of wall can open a new angle of approach for your troops, and enemy forces retreating to cover in a building can be targeted by calling in airstrikes to wipe that structure from the battlefield. Essentially, Mars Tactics uses destruction as a way to open up creative tactical options. Take the floor out from underneath your enemies, preemptively destroy cover that they are likely to take advantage of, or otherwise reshape the battlefield to your advantage. Individuals in your squads can have their own capabilities, inventories, as well as arsenals, and they can level up in skills through actions that they take on the battlefield. For example, a soldier neutralizing multiple enemies with a single shot might earn them a Predator trait. Saving a downed squad member might earn them a talent for medicine. You can also share equipment between units, including tossing magazines to a friend in need, or lobbing unprimed grenades for someone in a better position to pick it up, prime, and pop. Mars Tactics features 2 factions, the scrappy resource-starved labor revolutionaries, or the expansive shareholder-controlled capital army. They are locked in a dichotomy as old as time, the boot and those that are under its feet. Will the workers seize the means of destruction, or will their cohesion fall apart under the union-busting might of artillery fire? Whether you fight for the capital or stand alongside Labour, you'll need to adapt to different strengths, weaknesses, and gameplay systems of each faction, affecting their unique mechanics, units, and starting equipment. The main attracting feature of Mars Tactics for me is the ability to manipulate the environment during your campaigns. It's not something that you always see in strategy games these days, and because of that, is Mars Tactics going to be a game that you are looking forward to trying out? Let me know in the comment section below. This next game puts a spin on RTS that we have seen, well, not that often in recent times, and it's with indirect control. How does that work exactly, you might ask? Well, in Lessaria Fantasy Kingdom sim, you build a kingdom, hire heroes, but they live their own lives, doing whatever they please. Try winning a battle with such an unpredictable army. It's not that easy. Well, it's not entirely unpredictable. You can assign missions to be completed, set with rewards that may entice the kingdom's heroes to complete them. The game still features base building, but it will be a game in which you focus on your kingdom design and macro management. That's not to say that you won't be faced with important decision-making points, because, well, you will. The game will feature threat mechanics where you can destroy monster lairs to reduce the threat level and reduce the waves of attacking enemies. You can direct your attention to various manufacturers and heroes to temporarily increase their effectiveness, and so choosing between monster lairs to attack or focusing on boosting your resource gatherers or heroes will be important in your campaigns. The game is currently in a playtest active on Steam, so it's certainly worth checking out if this sneak preview has piqued your interest. Now, sticking with the more indirect approach to controlling units in an RTS, we have Annihilate the Spance, which is a newly released RTS base builder with constant production and less of a focus on micromanagement. What you will need to focus on, however, is prioritizing the type of units that you need to win the fight and the economy to produce it. You'll be part of vast battles, and whilst you cannot directly control your units, you can create waypoint chains to direct where your shipyards send your fleets. Think of it as a real-time strategy auto-battler hybrid. The game features a fast-paced single-player campaign with over 40 missions, where you fight both with and against the three main factions to overcome the horrors of the storm and wield the might of interstellar armadas. The game is set in a future embroiled in conflict following the discovery of a mysterious, ultra-dense nebula-like anomaly known as the Spance. An ancient roiling storm of matter and energy, the Spance has roamed the galaxy for eons and dragged hundreds of solar systems into its depths. Extreme and inexplicable phenomena make navigation of the Spance treacherous, but the unfathomable riches contained within it offer a lucrative new frontier full of promise. Annihilate the Spance doesn't just stop at the campaign, however. Beyond it, you can jump directly into skirmishes against AI opponents in custom maps and levels. In addition, the game features a full in-game level editor that can be used to create and share your own scenarios. It's certainly interesting to be seeing some games that are a little more focused on macro management and economy, with auto-unit production and control. Broken Arrow seems to have been cooking very nicely and is looking to be released in June 2025. More recently, we've had some announcements and some deep dives into some of the regiment army specializations. They've taken a very close look at the specializations for the United States, one in particular, the Striker Cavalry Regiment. There is a lot of detail given about this regiment on Steam, but I'm going to give you a quick overview. Essentially, the Striker is a family of 8-wheeled armored fighting vehicles requested by the United States Army after the end of the Cold War to be able to deploy a more transportable force that would strike a balance between heavy armor and infantry. The Striker, which is based on the Canadian LAV-3, was originally supposed to be an interim solution, but as is often the case, temporary solutions tend to become permanent, and many variants continue to be developed even now. So much so that the developers were able to base an entire army specialization on this vehicle platform. In Broken Arrow, the Striker Cavalry Regiment army specialization embodies the balance between armored and infantry units. The speed of the Strikers is inferior to the light transports of the airborne specialization, but they bring way more firepower with them, meaning that the infantry that they carry is not the main fighting force, but rather a support for the vehicles. All the Striker's armor can be upgraded, with an explosive reactive armor kit on top of which an active protection system can be added. Fully upgraded Strikers thus become very hard to destroy, but each additional level of protection comes at a cost of a lower maximum speed, as this vehicle was not originally designed with such heavy upgrades in mind. The Striker Infantry Carrier Vehicle is the most common version of the vehicle, which can transport up to 9 dismounts. The regiment also features truck-based units which complement the Strikers, including surface-to-air missile systems and multiple rocket launchers. In terms of air support, the Cavalry Regiment Army Specialization does not come with helicopters, but comes with 2 drones available, the MQ-1 Predator or the RQ-7B Shadow. The F-16 family of planes is also attached to this specialization, as well as the B-52H Stratofortress, a massive bomber bringing an equally massive amount of firepower to the battle. Broken Arrow is certainly a game that I know many of you are looking forward to, and next month the developers will be revealing the 5th and last US specialization. Now for a small update on Defcon Zero, a game that I have been having my eyes on for quite some time now. They've been giving us some really cool developer blog updates in their Discord about their inspirations, directions, and visions for Defcon Zero. Certainly a game that is taking a more realistic approach to the scale between units and buildings, something very different than most RTS. It's refreshing to see them take a different approach in a big way to what many RTS games have been doing recently, but also of course sticking true to what many RTS fans enjoy: base building, cool units, and strategy. There is a clear inspiration from Command & Conquer in the way that the game looks, but in the media announcements in Discord, the team are slowly but surely sharing their inspirations from various different games and sources, including Command & Conquer Generals, Dune, Mad Max, Red Alert, Dawn of War, and Warcraft, to name but a few. Some important things to note about Defcon Zero is that there is a plan to have asymmetric faction designs, streamlined base building where players can expand, adapt, and fortify efficiently, as well as a focus on big picture warfare with positioning forces, executing tactical maneuvers, and making key battlefield decisions, while units intelligently handle the finer details of combat. Now, since my last video about Defcon Zero, we've had a few small updates in game footages. For example, one of the tanks belonging to the ERA faction, the reveal of ERA's power core, the reveal of the refinery, and even a short clip of a soundtrack that the devs are working on for Defcon Zero. They're all coming up to see out the end of this segment. Now for this next feature, we are taking a look at a new tower defense game called Nordhold. I don't usually play too many tower defense games, but I did try the demo of this one, and I've got to say I thoroughly enjoyed it. So much so that I figured I'll talk about it today. It's a game where you slowly build up your city's infrastructure, grow its economy, and always prepare for waves of enemies. You have a wide variety of tower weapons, heroes, and upgrades at your disposal, but you'll have to choose carefully between them and make sure that you get the balance between defense and economy micromanagement correct in order to be able to afford everything that you need. The game is roguelite and features upgradable elements that carry with you between each playthrough and help you get closer and closer to withstanding the hordes of enemies with each playthrough. Each game also has tailored upgrades, making the game feel fresh each time, that help you conquer progressive waves of enemies, leading to some really exciting wave battles. You can actually already play the demo version of the game on Steam. It's really worth a try. Now with all that, it's been a pretty good start to 2025 for strategy games, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing what the next few months have in store. As always, a special thank you to the Patreons, and if you're looking for more strategy game content, well, YouTube recommends this next video that you can get onto by clicking the end card on your screen. I kinda wonder how good the algorithm is at predicting your interests. Either way, take care, and see you next time.